3 things you walk away with today. The exact mechanism Apple used to slow down your iPhone. Confirmed, documented, and paid for to the tune of $500 million. The settings on your phone right now that are capping your processor without a single notification. And the battery move that reverses most of it for under $100. Or free if you own a screwdriver. A man named John Poole ran a benchmark test on his iPhone in December 2017. He wasn't chasing a story. He noticed his older phone was scoring lower on CPU tests than it used to, and he wanted to know why. He compared phones running fresh batteries against phones with degraded batteries on identical software. The degraded phones were throttled, not by wear, by code, by an update Apple had pushed silently, with no mention in the changelog, no pop-up, no consent screen. Just slower. And you would never know unless you ran the right test and compared the numbers yourself. That's how it surfaced. Not a whistleblower, not a regulator. A benchmark test posted online. Apple confirmed it the following day. They called it performance management. The engineering explanation is real and worth understanding. A degraded lithium battery loses the ability to deliver peak current. And a phone pulling more power than a weak battery can supply will shut down without warning. Apple's throttle prevented those shutdowns. That part holds up. What cost them $500 million in the United States, plus a separate 25 million euro fine from France, was the part that came after. They never told you. No notification, no toggle you could find, nothing in the release notes. The phone you paid over $1,000 for was running at a fraction of its rated processor speed, and the company that built it decided that was not information you were owed. The devices affected ran from the iPhone 6 through the 7 series. If you owned one and filed a claim, you received up to $65. Apple's revenue the year the settlement landed was over $260 billion. Sound familiar? The printer's wasting counter ran silently until the machine locked up. The phone's performance management ran silently until someone ran Geekbench. Different product category, same architecture of non-disclosure. Now here's where Android gets complicated, because the honest answer is not every phone maker does the same thing. Samsung and Google have not been caught running a silent CPU throttle the way Apple did. Battery degradation affects Android performance. Same chemistry, same physics, same degradation curve, but there's no confirmed parallel to the Apple settlement on the Android side. What Android manufacturers have been caught doing is a quieter version of the same exit. Samsung announced 7 years of software updates for flagship Galaxy phones. Google pixel matched it. 7 years sounds generous until you read the fine print. The commitment is 7 generations of updates, not 7 calendar years. Depending on when a device shipped versus when it was officially withdrawn from sale, the real window can be meaningfully shorter. Budget Android phones from smaller manufacturers often see 2 years of updates and then silence. When software support ends, security patches stop. When security patches stop, your phone becomes an open door for anyone who knows the right address to knock on. Then the carrier phase out starts. Network bans your radio supports get deprecated. Apps require OS versions your phone can't run. 6 months later, you're in a store holding a new device and telling yourself the old one just got old. It didn't get old. It got managed to the edge and left there. So, the fix. The single biggest lever on any phone, iPhone or Android, is the battery, and almost nobody uses the setting that changes the trajectory. Lithium batteries have a cycle life. Every full charge, from 0 to 100%, counts as one cycle. Most phone batteries are rated for 500 to 1,000 cycles before degradation becomes measurable. 1 charge per day at full cycles gets you to 500 in less than a year and a half. That's the math the replacement upgrade cycle depends on. The setting that changes, this is already on your phone. iPhone, settings, battery, charging, charge limit set to 80%. Samsung, settings, battery and device care, battery, charging limit 80%. Other Android manufacturers have the same toggle buried 1 or 2 menus deeper. Lithium cells spend most of their chemical stress in the top 15% of the charge range. The voltage load at 100% is measurably harder on the cell than the voltage at 80. Capping the charge extends useful battery life by a documented 1 to 2 additional years depending on your usage habits. That's battery electrochemistry, not marketing. If your iPhone already reads below 80% battery health, performance management is already active. Check it. Settings, battery health, and charging. If the screen says performance management has been applied, your processor is running capped. The only way to fully lift that cap is to replace the battery. Apple charges roughly $100 for current models. iFixit sells a complete kit for about half that, and the job takes 20 minutes. When the new battery reads 100% health, performance management turns off automatically. People who do this describe their 3-year-old phone feeling like a new device. That is not a placebo. That is the CPU ceiling being removed because the hardware it was protecting no longer needs protection. On Android, do this before the battery degrades. Keep charge limit on, keep the phone away from sustained heat, and stop running it to 0. Heat is the other half of the battery story that gets ignored. A phone left in a hot car, face down on a wireless charger that runs warm, or pocketed directly after a long video call is accumulating thermal damage that shortens cell life faster than charge cycles alone. Heat above 40 degrees Celsius permanently accelerates lithium degradation. Not reversibly. The capacity lost to chronic heat doesn't come back. Keep the phone out of the sun and off the warm charger pad while sleeping. A phone maintained between 20 and 80% charge, kept cool, charged on a wire instead of a pad when convenient, holds above 90% battery health past 3 years. That's the window where most manufacturers start cutting software support. A phone at 90% health with current software is not a phone you need to replace. 2 more, because these 2 get blamed on age when they're actually settings. Background app. Refresh. On iPhone, settings, general background app. Refresh. Most people have this fully enabled, which means dozens of apps are silently pulling data, consuming battery cycles, and generating processor activity every time your screen is off. Turn it off for every app that doesn't need live updates. Mail, weather, news apps. These don't need to refresh in the background on a degraded phone. The battery cycles those processes burn are cycles that accelerate the health drop that triggers throttling. Cutting background refresh on a phone already below 85% health is not a small change. Storage. When a phone's internal storage fills past 85%, read and write speeds slow measurably. App launches, photo saves, background syncs. Everything that touches storage gets slower because the file system is managing a packed drive. Keep 15% free, not 10, not 5. On iPhone, settings, general, iPhone storage shows which apps are consuming space that isn't doing anything for you. App caches, old downloads, streaming apps caching locally. These don't show up as obvious targets, but they add up fast. Software updates are the last one, and this is the move that costs nothing and saves the most friction. Major iOS and Android updates are optimized for current hardware. Before running a major version update on a phone that's 2 or 3 years old, search your exact model number and the update version number, plus the word performance. If the forums are lighting up with slowdown reports on your device, wait a cycle. Apple and Google typically push a point release within 2 to 4 weeks that irons out the rough edges. Updating the day, a major release drops on older hardware is a known risk that you can skip entirely by waiting 20 days. France made software-based planned obsolescence a criminal offense. Deliberately engineering a functional product to slow or fail at a predetermined threshold is prosecutable there. The Apple fine came out of that framework. The EU began phasing in legislation in June 2025, requiring manufacturers to provide spare parts and repair access for up to 10 years. In Canada and the United States, none of that framework exists. No criminal exposure for silent. Throttling. No mandatory repair access. No required disclosure when a software update caps the processor on hardware you paid for. The phone knows its own battery health number. It knows when performance management is running. It just wasn't built to tell you in plain language in a prominent place the day it started happening. The number is in your settings. The ceiling comes off with a battery swap. The charge limit takes 30 seconds to turn on. None of this requires a new phone. Share this with someone still blaming their phone for being slow when it's one setting and one swap away from working like it used to, and I'll see you in the next one.